My remarks, which now will follow, will move along a different track, but one no less critical and no less urgent. We are in a crisis, but before we address the present crisis, much less the future, we must take note of the past. And oh, what a glorious past we share, Carson-Newman and our sister American colleges. This venerable college opened its doors as Mossy Creek Missionary Baptist Seminary, holding classes in the Mossy Creek Baptist Church, this very church as it was known then. After becoming Mossy Creek Baptist College, the school then became Carson College in honor of James Carson, a founder and 30-year trustee. Later, a female academy opened, eventually known as Newman College, in honor of the Newman family of founders. The two colleges, Carson and Newman, became one in 1889. The 1919 mission statement of the college emphasized, "It has always been the purpose of the college to offer its students instruction in the light of the teachings of Jesus Christ." The college owes its allegiance to Christ. With classes born in the church, this sacred academy stands as a testament to providence and prayer. What a glorious past. Yet, we are but a star in a breathtaking galaxy. The birth of nearly all American colleges before 1865 came forth from church organizations or devout Christians with intentional Christian ends in mind, including Harvard, Yale, William and Mary, Princeton, Columbia, Dartmouth, Brown, the University of Chicago. Brown was founded by Baptists. So was the University of Chicago. Harvard's motto in 1650 proclaimed Christi Gloriam, glory to Christ. Then in 1692, Harvard's motto became Christo et Ecclesiae, Christ and Church. Harvard's earliest set of rules and precepts decreed that each student was to be, quote, plainly instructed to know God and Jesus Christ, which is eternal life, and therefore to lay Christ as the only foundation to all sound knowledge and learning, end quote. Yale's stated purpose from the beginning was to teach and engage the children to know God and Jesus Christ and to love and to serve Him. The University of Chicago's first public announcement read, quote, "The new university is to be a Christian institution. It is to be forever under the auspices of the Baptist denomination. The university shall be Christian in tone, in influence, and in work. The provisions of this charter are pledges to you that this shall always remain true." By the early 1900s, however, the secularization of higher education had displaced the dominant Christian intellectual position in state universities and major private universities, and by the 1960s, in most church colleges as well. Aware of the dangers of the secular way, Yale President Charles Seymour, in his inaugural address in 1937, called for a return to our Christian heritage and hope, declaring, "Yale was dedicated to the upraising of spiritual leaders. We betray our trust if we fail the Christian religion as a vital part of university life. I call on the faculty freely to recognize the tremendous validity and power of the teachings of Christ in our life and death struggle against the forces of selfish materialism. If we lose that struggle," he continued, "scholarship as well as religion will disappear." Oh, what an uproar William F. Buckley, Jr. created in 1951 with the publication of his book, God and Man at Yale. And critiquing his alma mater, Buckley alleged that Yale had lost its way, that she had become incoherent, suffering a loss of mission, that she had drifted so far from her founding ideals in failing to Christianize Yale that the average student attending Yale graduated with a shattered respect for Christianity. Professor McGeorge Bundy, who later would serve the Kennedy and Johnson administrations as National Security Advisor, published in the Atlantic Monthly a scathing response to Buckley, essentially presenting the university's official statement of denial of Buckley's allegations. The battle was joined. So, where are we today? At a critical crossroads. It is difficult to imagine any of our nation's major private universities or state universities being anything but bored with the conversation regarding Christianity's mission on campus. Christianity, along with Elvis, has left the building. Will Christian faith forever be vanquished from higher education, or will it be allowed to return from exile? What does Athens have to do with Jerusalem? Tertullian asked. Much, Duns replied. Much, sing a chorus of contemporary voices across America. Everything, say hundreds of history's brightest lights, as well as today's leading intellectuals. Paul, Clement, Anselm, Augustine, Aquinas, Erasmus, Calvin, Luther, Orr, Kuyper, Newman, Trueblood, Holmes, Marsden, Noel, Burchell, Dockery, Ringenberg, Lewis, Schwinn, Newhouse, Jacobson, Beatty, Benny, Plantica, Walterstorff, McGrath, Hughes, Evans, and countless other luminaries testify of the inseparable nature of truth in theology. Anselm and Augustine wrote passionately of faith-seeking understanding. On the contrary, Richard Dawkins, a leading spokesman for atheism today, claims, faith is the great cop-out, the great excuse to evade the need to think and evaluate evidence. Hear what John Polkinghorne, past chairman of the Nuclear Physics Board of the Science Research Council in Great Britain, has to say of the matter. We live in a cosmos, not a chaos, so that the world makes total sense. In other words, there is indeed a theory of everything, and the name of that theory is theology. The world makes total sense because it is a creation, the unified expression of the mind and will of the Creator. Polkinghorne, now Fellow of Queen's College, Cambridge, continues, I believe that theology is of continuing significance in a scientific age, and that its pursuit is an indispensable part of the activity of a complete university. Francis Collins, one of the world's leading geneticists and the longtime head of the Human Genome Project, the decade-long breakthrough to decode the DNA of our species, writes, quote, the principles of faith are in fact complementary with the principles of science. In my view, there's no conflict in being a rigorous scientist and a person who believes in a God who takes a personal interest in each one of us, end quote. All of this is well and good, but is there anyone here who believes that Ivy League U or State U will rush to become citadels for the integration of faith and learning? Do we really believe our public and major private universities will choose to become bastions of Christian orthodoxy? What then is the future of the past? Where might academies of science, humanities, fine arts, education, professional schools, and faith be found? I'm glad you asked. Comes the prophet. In 1975, Arthur Holmes, influenced heavily by Abraham Kuyper, John Henry Newman, and Elton Trueblood, published The Idea of a Christian College. Holmes argued that only an active integration of faith and learning truly distinguishes the secular and Christian university. Floodgates opened and outpoured volumes of sympathetic works from the ranks of the intelligentsia. The leitmotif of each of their works calls for Christian colleges and universities to reverse their retreat, reclaim their heritage, and to do so by marching boldly into the promised land of Christian higher education, holding high the banner, all truth is God's truth. Comes a surprise. Distant cousins are preaching a not-so-distant message from the halls of secular universities. As William Ringenberg notes, at least since the appearance of Alan Bloom's The Closing of the American Mind, how higher education has failed democracy and impoverished the soul of today's students, the general modern critique of secular higher education has bemoaned the tendency to replace the character and values education dimension of learning with an anti-religion bias. Ringenberg continues, even the traditionally elite institutions are becoming aware of their growing barrenness, as noted by Columbia University professor Andrew Delbanco, who writes, there is a nervousness that may account for the use of compensatory institutions within the institution, such as the Center for Human Values at Princeton or the Institute for Ethics at Duke. But what can it mean, he asked, that thinking about ethics has become mostly an extracurricular activity? Add to this critique the work of Harry Lewis, former dean of Harvard College, entitled Excellence Without a Soul, How a Great University Forgot Education, in which he acknowledges that moral education has withered in our universities and the testimony of crisis mounts. All of this is nice, but we in Christian colleges and universities are not simply talking about values and ethics. It is certainly true that we, among others, concur with the need for a renewed focus upon morals. But the cry is for more than that. If America's colleges displaced historic Orthodox Christianity with generic religion and social good, or at best confined Christianity to the office of the campus minister, or a chapel service, or a specially created department of religion, leaving no place for Christian faith in the nerve center of the university, the curriculum, if science became the new orthodoxy in the halls of academe, if our campuses severed the rose from its roots by finding a place for morals in the fields of study, but none for Christianity, if our colleges came in time to find morals passé, while manners, whatever that means, became the mark of an educated person, are we really surprised to discover that we are living in communities stuffed with information but starved for values? And if we have fallen over the precipice, is the appropriate corrective step to climb part of the way back up the slippery cliff during the torrential cultural monsoon and hope we won't be washed away again? Or should we consider ascending to the top of the rock and rest on the solid footing of historic Orthodox Christianity? Why then the call for a focus on morals? Without an authoritative foundation, do not morals erode? Isn't that precisely why we have arrived at our point of need? Perhaps in our secular age, secular colleges and universities will not desire to integrate faith and learning, choosing to go their own way instead. But I would like to join the caravan of sages through the ages, including the company of evangelical confessing scholars today who hold to the unity of truth and to the belief that faith and learning, not faith or learning, is the best way to attain true erudition. In our search for knowledge, our quest for truth, why should our learning communities and faith communities remain separate? Let us embrace an open search for truth, wherein freedom to think includes permission to ask any question and to analyze every perspective. Open intellectual inquiry may not, after all, by self-definition, exclude thinking Christianly across the curriculum. Any search for truth which excludes a priori consideration of evidence or particular views is at best misguided elitism, mishandled epistemology, or mistaken scientific method, but at worst, missionary secularism intent upon installing the new atheism as the fundamentalist religion of college campuses. Enough of this idolatrous sacrifice of our children. Let us no longer accept the patronizing heresy of compartmentalizing our Christian faith into non-threatening conclaves safely away from the classroom. Rather, let us champion both free academic inquiry and committed theological loyalty. We in the Academy make much of academic freedom. Then let us use, in our Christian colleges, let us freely dare to view life through Christian lens, freely dare to let truth and error compete for residence in our minds, freely dare to be who we were created to be. Let us read widely, listen deeply, reflect critically, observe studiously, present effectively, debate delightfully, write masterfully, analyze keenly, question honestly, dissent respectfully, think Christianly, and live gratefully in the presence of our Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, God. The universe is our classroom. The cosmos is our campus. The Creator is welcome here. Vocatus atque, vocatus deus aderet. The eminent psychologist Carl Jung had carved over the door of his home. Bidden or not bidden, God is here. So, the future of the past? In a story titled, Christian Colleges Are Booming, Time magazine reported a U.S. Department of Education survey which revealed an enrollment increase of 67.3% for the decade of 1992-2002 for schools listed in the Council of Christian Colleges and Universities. The increase for all other colleges and universities during the same 10-year period of time was 2.1%, a 65% differential. Apparently, the longing is for a place where the life of the mind and the shepherding of the Spirit might find a welcome home. If so, Carson-Newman's ethos of open intellectual inquiry and a deeper spiritual life, a beautiful tapestry of faith, learning, and caring community, positions us providentially to meet the deepest needs of our neighbor and realize the highest dreams we dare to dream. I dream of a college where our graduates have learned how to think. They have learned what the best and brightest minds throughout the ages have thought and currently are thinking. But they have also learned to think for themselves and to think Christianly at that. The college of my dreams features the Christian intellectual tradition as a centerpiece, and the integration of faith and learning as the cornerstone, and classroom excellence, cutting-edge scholarship, and love of students, all within a caring community. The college of my dreams stands under the lordship of Jesus Christ, where we faithfully accept our Lord's invitation to love Him with all of our hearts, with all of our souls, and with all of our minds. As Victor Hugo shared, there's nothing like a dream to create the future. Thank you.